Hey beautiful people, what is up and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila and I love all things beauty. I love all things makeup, I love all things skincare, and I especially love sharing my tips and tricks for how to find high-end and luxury beauty products at bargain prices. If that sounds like something you are interested in, I would absolutely love if you would consider subscribing and joining the fam. Okay, it has been like a minute and a half since I've actually filmed, so I feel a little rusty. I apologize. And you all have probably already noticed that the uploads on my channel have slowed down a bit. It's almost like 1 to 2 times a week. Honestly, I'm not really sure what the cadence will be. Life has been lifing and I have been hella busy. So I apologize for that. That being said though, even though I have been busy, I still have been using makeup, just not actually having any time to sit down and film. So that's been like the rough part. So for today's video, I actually have a ranking. So I'm going to be ranking the last 10 eyeshadow palettes I have tried. I have a stack of them here. This is a hard one. I have gone back and forth on this for a while, and honestly this might change after I'm done filming this video because why my earrings keep falling off and on camera. Anyways, so I'm going to be ranking the last 10 eyeshadow palettes that I've tried. I have the pile here. Let's just dive in. Okay, so I just turned off the AC because it is kind of loud, but it is hot as hell. It's 98 degrees outside. So I have this fan on next to me because I need something to keep me cool. So hopefully y'all don't hear that in the video. I don't think you will, but if you do, sorry. I don't know what else to do because I'm dying. Okay, so coming in at number 10 is actually a bit of an impulse buy for me. And this is the KVD Vegan Beauty, what is this called? Planet Fanatic Fully Recyclable Wet Dry Eyeshadow Palette. So you probably have never seen this palette because honestly, I don't know who talks about KVD Beauty anymore. Quite frankly, is that still the name? I remember they changed the name like 3 times. So I don't even know if that's still the name of the brand. But this palette has KVD Vegan Beauty on it. Now this is it, I don't know how I feel about it. So this palette was originally like $45, I believe, and I think I paid $13 for this because it went on like super discount. And I think part of that is because of the fact that nobody's really checking for KVD Beauty. No, the reason why this is ranking at number 10 is not necessarily because this is bad. This is actually a really nice formula. It was made in Italy, and the shimmers in here really do shim and shim well. So I like the shimmer formula in here. The reason why this is ranking lower is because of the mattes. So the mattes in here are a little too light for me, like light. So this is the deepest shade. So this is the only shade that I can use to deepen up things. And I found that on my eyes, it kind of works as a transition shade for me, not necessarily a deepening shade. The other thing too about this palette, which might be a little bit minor for people, because I know, you know, it's about how the shadow performs. But this is the cheapest packaging I have ever seen in my life. It looks like Claire's makeup. You get the real basic plastic packaging with these kind of cheap looking stars printed on it. And I know part of this is because it's supposed to be completely recyclable, but it's ugly. I don't know what else to say. It's ugly. And the other thing too about this being completely recyclable is that the eyeshadows are actually not in pans. So what I have had happen is that some of these shadows will puff up and almost like fall out. So it's not the sturdiest packaging. I get it. It's great for the environment. But at $45, which I think was the price, or even a little bit higher, I need better quality than this, both in the performance of the shadows as well as in the packaging. Now that being said, the shimmers do shim, so I will like reach for other mattes and then use the shimmers on this because they work really well. I will say the shimmers here are more of that, I don't want to call them satin because they're not satin, but they're not super chunky sparkly shades. Like you'll get a nice metallic shade and I find that it sinks in really well. It works perfectly if you have fine lines or texture on your lids, and it doesn't emphasize anything, but it's not like super shiny chunky particles. So if you're worried about texture or sinking in, I think you will actually like that part of the shimmer formula. Like I said, I paid $13 for this. I don't regret it. It's just that I have a ton of other palettes that I just kind of like more. So yeah, this is coming in at number 10. Do you guys still buy from KVD though? Like I'm genuinely curious because I feel like nobody talks about KVD Beauty. This is the second palette that I have from them. That's this recyclable thingamabob since they were KVD Vegan Beauty. Like I said, I think they changed the name. I don't know what it is, but does anybody buy from them anymore? Right? anyways. Now coming in at number 9 is a new palette, and I do have a review on this one, and that is the Nomad Fête de Provence palette. Now this was inspired by France. It is a really, really cute color story. You get the purples, the reds, the maroons, like very wine themed. But I'm not going to go too deep into this because I give you guys my like thoughts in that review. Here's the thing with this palette. It's really cute and all, but this top row, ash. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, this top row, most of these shades are quite ashy on me. These two work really well. This one, to some extent, works well. But this shade, it's all just kind of very, very ashy on me. I actually have to go in with a lot of these bottom shades here as transition shades because the top row is so very light. The other thing too with this is that these two shimmers are really strong. They have a nice base to them, but these three are almost toppery like and just don't show up. This yellow turns green on me for some reason. Like, I don't understand. Like, you can already see how light these shimmers are on my finger. There's like no pigment to them, right? Not super impressive. So you guys know I love Nomad formula. This palette was actually gifted to me by the brand, but this one just didn't hit. It wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. And I actually saw a couple of other people who used this palette, who received it, who bought it for themselves, say that it was ashy on them too, and they were lighter than me. So I'm like, if people who are significantly lighter than me, if a bunch of white people are saying that this is too light, like some of those shades are too light for them, then where's the hope for us, right? So I wanted to like it, but I really didn't. Yeah, it definitely isn't my favorite, and I will be doing a Nomad ranking video soon, so be on the lookout for that. But that has to come in at number 9 because just overall I wasn't in love. Coming in at number 8 is this itty bitty baby from Miss Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Pillow Talk Palette of Dreams. Now this is super cute. This looks like every other quad Charlotte has put out. Deadass. I don't know. It literally looks like every other quad Charlotte has put out. Now what I will say about this one is that the shades in here have depth. So if you are of a deeper complexion, these two shades work perfectly as a transition and a deepening up shade, which I appreciate because sometimes when you have a quad, the two shades in there, like the matte shades in there are really light, but these two work really well. Now this is ranking a little bit lower, not because of performance, because even the shimmers in here are perfection, but you get one look. It's a one-trick pony kind of palette, which, I mean, is a quad. Like, how much tricks do you expect a quad to have, right? But I like this. It's not that I don't like it, because I actually really like this. This is like perfect for when you want something quick and easy, when you need something small to travel with. This is like really good for work in my opinion because it's not super shiny. It performs really well and you can really do a look in like 10 minutes or less using this. So I appreciate it for how quick it is to come up with a really nice look that, you know, has a little bit of glam to it but nothing too over the top. But it is a one-trick pony, so it had to rank a little bit lower because I have palettes that just have more shades and more versatility. Coming in at number 7 is the Menagerie Cosmetics Sugar High palette. Now, this baby is heavy, it's a little thick, it's a little chunky. I'm not sure why it's so thick and chunky and heavy, but the packaging in this is really cute. I really do enjoy Menagerie's packaging. I think it's adorable. I did buy this with the intent of doing a review on it, never got to it. And honestly, it took me a while to use this because once I finally got it, I just wasn't inspired to reach for this. And this is, I think it's because this is just a colorful color story. Like, there's no way to make this neutral. There's no way to tone things down. It's always going to be a little bit bold. However, when I finally did actually use this palette, I really enjoyed it. These two light shades on top here, superb, very pigmented. Now, I did experience some staining with this pink shade at the bottom. So, I believe some of these, yes, it does say here, some of these are pressed pigments, so it might stain your lids. And that is rare for something to stain my lids, but this pink did. And the shimmers in here, stunning. Now, I don't regret buying this, but I do think that had I sat on it and thought about it a little bit more, I may not have bought this at, honestly, I think I paid full price. Because it's not a palette that I reach for a ton. It's not one that I'm like thinking, ooh, I want to grab for this. Are the colors in here gorgeous? Yes. The mattes matte and they blend really well. The shimmers are really, really gorgeous and they work really well on the lid. But it's just not a color story that I've been inspired to reach for. And I've purposely left this on my table so that I can use it more often. But I just wasn't inspired to pick it. So it's ranking a little bit lower, not because of performance, not because of, you know, anything bad. It's just I wasn't inspired to reach for it. I actually do like the color story, but just something wasn't calling to me at that time. Maybe a little bit later I will want to reach for this more, but just right now, not so much, to be honest. Coming in at number 6 is another palette that was gifted to me, and that is the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette. This is in the deep shade, deep version. And this was a palette that was on my wish list forever, and I finally was able to get it. And isn't she beautiful? Like I said, this was gifted to me from the brand. And this was always a color story that called to me because it's cool toned, but it's not intimidating. Now, I have a very yellow golden undertone, so oftentimes cool tone products, if it's not the right one and if it's not applied correctly, can look real casket ready, real gray on me. But something about Sydney Grace's formula just works, right? You guys know I love Sydney Grace. I've raved about their formula before, and this was no different. Now, I do think that the mattes in here are a little bit tightly packed, so I kind of have to dig my brush in a little bit to get some product. But overall, it blends really well on the eyes. The shimmers are stunning. I did do a makeup and murder using this palette, and I really love it. And when I think about like cool toned palettes for deeper skin tones and folks with a more yellow golden undertone, you know, this is definitely one that comes to mind for me because, like I said, sometimes other ones can make you look real gray and casket ready, and it just doesn't work. And Sydney Grace is one of those brands that is the most consistent when it comes to their eyeshadow. Like, there are lots of brands where you like their eyeshadow, you like certain products, and then you don't like certain products. I found that with Sydney Grace, their eyeshadow palettes all tend to be very, very consistent, good, high quality formula. So if you're looking for a cool toned palette and you have a deeper complexion and you want something that's not too intimidating, that can give you both neutral and colorful looks, because I like that you can keep this pretty, you know, neutral and, you know, basic with some of these shades that are definitely more natural. Or you can add a little pop of color with the kind of purple and the blue here. I think those are two really nice pops that just give you a little extra something if you want that. Coming in at number 5 is the Notoriously Morbid We Don't Always palette. Now, the last time I did a rankings video, this was actually the palette that I was wearing in that video. That was my first time trying it. And to be quite honest, after using this palette a couple of times, I am really impressed with the Notoriously Morbid formula. Like, it is very rare now, in my opinion, where I find a formula that feels new, that feels different. And when I tried Notoriously Morbid, I was like, oh, this is new and this is nice. No, it is kind of middle of the pack, and I don't really dislike any of these palettes, so this was real hard. But the reason why this is kind of middle of the pack is because the fallout, jeez Louise, the fallout is bad. And not even just with the shimmer eyeshadows, the matte eyeshadows have significant fallout. Now, this is a palette that you cannot do your base with. Like, you just can't. You have to, I would definitely 100,000% recommend going in with the eyeshadow first and then going in with your foundation. The other thing too that I learned with Notoriously Morbid is that the shadows are dry, like real dry. And because of that, I would definitely recommend that you don't set your eyeshadow base. Like, you leave it a little sticky, you leave it a little bit wet, so the shadows have something to cling to and they have a little bit less fallout. Now, the bad thing about this palette and about Notoriously Morbid in general is that they discontinue palettes with a quickness. Now, this was a limited edition palette that they released for Friday the 13th, and they literally sold it for 3 days. Like, we're selling this for 3 days. When that 3 days is over, it's done. Not like we're selling it until it's sold out. It was literally like that time limited. So if you weren't able to pick this up, I do apologize. They actually also just released another palette that they discontinued like after a week. Notoriously Morbid, I don't know why their products are so limited, but the formula is nice. Even though the shimmers are definitely a little bit drier and they need something to grip to, like, they have a very interesting, soft, you know, formula to them. Like, they're not super chunky, they don't like sit in the creases, they don't accentuate texture, but they blend, but they just kind of like sit on the lid really nicely. And I feel like after a little bit of time, they settle in and they look even more beautiful. Like something about these shadows, I feel like the longer you wear them, the better they look. So I was really impressed by that because I felt like over time I kept looking at my shadow and I was like, this just gets prettier the longer that I have it on, and I don't know why. So Notoriously Morbid is definitely one of those formulas that blew me away the first time I tried. It felt new, it felt different, it felt unique, and I've definitely been enjoying this. Just the fallout is a bit much. Now coming in at number 4, this is gonna surprise y'all. Don't judge me, because I did not give this palette a great review. I really didn't, but I can't stop reaching for it. I really can't. And that is the Adept Cosmetics House of Elle palette. Okay, I'm gonna just say it because y'all have heard me say it before. I do not like the Adept Cosmetics matte formula. I really dislike the Adept Cosmetics matte formula. And in this palette, I had issues with this shade specifically. This one was not the best, but it also wasn't too bad. And this one blended really well. It's just this shade, Hot Mess, did not work. And this one was like not that great. Now, the reason why this is ranking number 4 out of 10 is because the shimmers in here are life-saving for this palette. Like, this is the only reason this is ranking really high. Now, I will say that I do think that these shimmers have to stand on their own. Like, you can't pair them next to each other. Because what I found is that I did a look and I paired this one with this one. And they kind of looked the same on the eye. And these 3 shades, what I realized is that if they are close together, they look very similar. And to be quite honest with multichromes, I found that you don't really want to layer too many multichromes close together because it's just a lot happening, right? So for the way I like to apply multichromes is that you set down your mattes and then you pick one and then you apply it over the lid. Now with this palette, I have worn these multichromes with other mattes. Absolutely loved them. This Zor-El shade, stunning. Like, do you see that? And these have a wet feel and texture to them that on the eye just gives them so much shine, so much, like, it's just stunning. And every time I've worn this palette outside, I've gotten so much compliments, and it does make me feel really, like, it makes me feel really pretty. It makes me feel just like va-va-voom when I wear this, and I felt confident enough to wear this outside. I've said before that I don't really wear really bright shadows outside, but I've actually felt really confident wearing this, even though it does call a lot of attention to the eye. Now, I don't know what else to say about this palette. It's just like the shimmers in here are really good. So it's ranking higher too because of the fact that even though the mattes don't perform well, when you really think about the quality of the shimmers and the price you would pay if they were singles, it does have pretty good value. So somebody actually commented that when I did my review for this video, and I was like, you know what, you're right. After doing some math, you are right about the value of this. If I just, taking the mattes aside, just think about what I would have paid for these shimmers individually. So because of that, it's definitely ranking higher. And it's ranking a lot higher too because when I think about the amount of times that I've used this palette and I've reached for this palette, which I didn't expect to reach for as much as I do, I can't help it. I actually took this with me to Connecticut last weekend for my cousin's bachelorette party. And I just went in with the shade Cara Zor-El all over the lid. No mattes, nothing. I just dipped my finger and I just did, and it was a beautiful look. So that is definitely a stunning palette. Now, it is limited edition. I think it might still be in stock, so if you want to get it, I definitely recommend you do that before it sells out because I think this is the last restock and it's not going to come back. Now, coming in at number 3 is actually the palette that I think is the perfect companion to the House of Elle palette, and that is the Odin's Eye Solman 2 palette. Now, this baby is gorgeous. I think it has such a beautiful color story. Like, I love that you can go really monochromatic row by row, or you can mix and match, and all of these shades really mix together really well. Now, I think the star of this palette is the mattes. The mattes here are so beautiful, so blendable. I actually have like divots in some of these shades because I've just been reaching for the mattes. Are these shimmers great? Yes. However, they are just sort of standard metallic shimmers, and there's this one shade, Starry Sky, that is a little bit more of a topper shade than an actual true shimmer. But they're just kind of standard shimmers. So what I've been doing is using the mattes from this palette with the multi-chrome shades from this palette and pulling together looks. And this pairs together like perfection. When I said I took this to my cousin's bachelorette, I actually took it with this palette. I didn't have time to do any mattes or a lot of makeup, to be honest. But I did take both of these palettes together because I have really been looking at this as like one palette. I get the mattes from here, I get the shimmers from here, and it works well. Are these shimmers nice? Yes, they're beautiful, but they're just standard shimmers. And I've been feeling really multi-chrome-ish lately, and this just doesn't give me that. But the looks that I was able to create with this palette by itself, I still really, really love. And I think that this is a really, really nice palette. I think the color story works perfectly, and I have no quality issues with it whatsoever. So that's why it's ranking higher than House of Elle, because with House of Elle, I need to pull in mattes from somewhere else in order to make this work, because the multi-chromes need something and the mattes in here don't work. But with Soul Man, I can actually create really pretty looks with the mattes and the shimmers in here. It's just that if I want to take the look to a higher level or make it a little extra, I use the House of Elle to get that multi-chrome goodness and that wet look. Okay, we're down to the last two palettes, and this was hard. This was real hard. And I don't even have a review for either of these. But coming in at number 2 is the Byredo Flora Kalahari palette. This is so tiny. Look at how, who is supposed to read that? I know my eyes ain't that good, but Lord. And the text is white too. So you have this white text on this silver reflective packaging. Listen, my LASIK was not that good, okay? Anyways, this is the Byredo Flora Kalahari palette. This was a limited edition palette. And I will say that the packaging for this is stunning. I love the reflective, ignore your fingerprints, I love sort of the reflective packaging, this really beautiful flower here. You do have all the shade names and details on the back. It says Byredo right here, and then when you open it up, you do get a really nice size mirror with Byredo's logo, but these are the shades. Look at that. It looks boring, I understand. It looks like boring, especially when you cover the blue. But this, so beautiful. Now this does remind me a little bit of Charlotte Tilbury, Natasha Denoza Zendo, in that these shades are not that super high shine, sparkly, textury shades. Like they're very soft, almost satin-like, but they are beautiful. Like the mattes in here blend really well. And the shimmers, they also do that thing that notoriously moment shimmers do, where the longer you wear them, the prettier they look. Like they just kind of seem to settle into the eyes over time and just look even more beautiful the longer you wear them. I didn't experience any fading with this. You get a really nice shine, and it gives you a really nice glam look without looking too over the top, which is what I like about this, because I feel like this was created, you know, with like textured lids in mind, with, you know, older lids in mind, so that you don't create something that emphasizes any imperfections on the lid. And while some of these shades do look very similar next to each other in the pan, they are so different on the lid, so different when swatched. Like that was one of my hesitations before buying this, because everything kind of looked really similar, but it doesn't apply similar. So this was very misleading, and it does show up differently on the eyes, which I really, really appreciated. Now, I decided to pull this out to try it. I've had this for like months because of the Issa Maya palette that went on sale, and I know she was the creative director for Byredo, or I think was. And I wanted to try the Byredo formula because I felt like her palette would be somewhat similar. I haven't purchased that palette yet. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to be quite honest. I want it, yes, but it is pretty pricey. It's like $115. They have 2 matte blacks in there, which seem really redundant. And I don't need it. I think that's the other thing too, is I don't need it. I just want it. So I'm holding off on that one. I'm very content with this one from Byredo. So as you can see, it's number 2. So yeah, I'm really enjoying using that. That's going to be one of those that I use a ton for like meetings and conferences and things that I go to, where I want something that's just a little bit more elevated, not too loud, but creates really beautiful, almost ethereal looks that just give you a nice, sophisticated glam look without looking like crazy in your face. And then last but not least, coming in at number 1, drum roll please. Da, 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 da. That's not a drum roll. Ignore that. Am I gonna edit that out? Nah. So coming in at number 1 is another Notoriously Morbid palette. And this one I think is still available, so if you want it, you can get this one. And this is the Notoriously Morbid Eclipse the Sun palette. Now, one thing I will say about Notoriously Morbid, their packaging is not the best. It is real basic. I don't know if that's the right word, but it doesn't do a ton. Like, this is the packaging here. You just get the sticker on it. You have the shade names in the back. What I do appreciate about the shade names, though, is that they say if it is vegan or lip safe. So some of these are lip safe, some of these are not. And I think all of these shades are vegan. So I like that they tell you if you can put it on your lip. That way, if you wanted to create really interesting looks, you could. Anyways, this is the Eclipse the Sun palette. And these are the shades here. Really, really beautiful. They look really light and you don't really get to see the shift in them. And that's because some of these are these iridescent shades. And you have to like see them in person to really see the shift to them. Now they are stunning. Stunning. And what I actually found with this palette that I thought was surprising is that the two mattes in here actually work and blend well without any fallout. I don't know what it was about the other palette where it had a ton of fallout. Maybe it is the colors of these, and I think these shades are just a little bit easier to formulate, which could help with the fallout. But they work, blend really, really well. Now the shimmers in here, stunning. I like that they are a little bit more iridescent, so you get something that's a little bit lighter, a little bit airier. It could be because we're in spring, we're in the summertime. I don't want anything that's too deep or grungy. I'm trying to keep it like light and airy. So I feel like this is real perfect for right now. I have been loving this palette. I have been, you know, dipping into it. This is also great because these shades are so like dimensional. You can literally just reach for one shade. You can put one shade in the crease and then just plop one of these shimmers all over the lid, or you can have one shade in the crease, one in the outer V, and then just one shimmer all over the lid. And these are all sort of dual multi-chrome shades, so you do get that really beautiful sort of shifty eyeshadow, like stunning. Now, same with their last palette, it is like a dry formula, so I definitely say, you know, keep things a little tacky when you're working with the Notoriously Morbid formula, but this has to rank at #1 because, to be quite frank, Notoriously Morbid is the only formula that has really, really blown me out of the water in a while. Like, there are very few formulas where I try it and I'm like, whoa. And I'm talking about getting that whoa feeling upon first application. Like, it's the way I felt when I tried a Pat McGrath shadow for the first time. It's the way I felt when I tried a Tammy Tenuka shadow for the first time. You know, that's what I got when I tried the Notoriously Morbid formula. Like, I will try new formulas and I'm like, oh, that's nice. But it's that whoa feeling that I'm like, damn, that is different. That is giving something that's, you know, giving me a little tingle. And that's what I felt like with Notoriously Morbid, and I have been really enjoying this palette. I think it's extremely versatile. I think the two mattes that they picked work well with all of the shades, but you can also reach into other palettes and pick out shimmers from there, which I think is great because, I mean, I think I paid like $40 something for this palette. I know Beauty and the Frizz has a code with them, so I got like 10% off, but like, when you pay that much for a palette, I would rather the bulk of it be multi-chrome shades because I can pull mattes from wherever. I can reach for my Blends Bunnies palette and pull a matte from there. It's having those multi-dimensional shades. That's what I want when I'm paying that price. So this is my #1 palette. I've really been enjoying it, and that's that. So those were the 10 eyeshadow palettes that I have been trying and playing with. Really been loving it. If you have questions about any of these palettes, leave them down below. I'll try to insert some pictures of me wearing these palettes throughout, as I typically do. I will do my best. Anyways, thank you all so very much for watching. I'm gonna do my best to keep these videos coming at least once or twice a week. I'm trying to get to like a 2 video a week schedule. You know, things are just a little bit busy, so bear with me. I'm doing my best. But as always, I love you guys so very much. If you haven't already done so, like the video. Go ahead and subscribe. There will be more content coming, like I said. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. Share with a friend if you think they'll like the content. As always, I love you guys so very much. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye!